Go ahead. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to episode 10. It's a big episode for us. For here at Today at Embr. I am Robb Vallozzi, head of communications. I'm joined with Jason Dominique, head of strategy here at the Embr Project. Jason, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing fantastic, Rob. Yes, episode 10. Wow, feels like we've been doing this for years. But yeah, episode 10. That's actually a funny sort of not story, but to say that this idea of creating a podcast or a stream or just what we're doing right now in regards
Mhm.
to just sharing and having a conversation just came on a spurs of a moment, and now we're already into episode 10. So
I know.
yeah, really looking forward to.
Can't believe it's been 10 weeks already.
Yeah, I can't believe we haven't. Well, I haven't. You missed one, but I haven't missed a show.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Uh,
speaking of missing a show, I will not be here next week, and then we're taking off for the holiday break. But we do have a special guest next week who's going to be talking about some pretty important stuff, and really what's going to drive with liquidity and when it comes to the token and some of the ways we're incentivizing people to be able to hold. But that's a whole conversation for next week. This week we're going to be having some discussions about the ecosystem. We haven't talked about that in a little bit and really what the vision of that is. And even though we understand it's an abstract idea, that that we'll try to build us paint as much of a picture as we can to the community of really what our vision is. And then we'll be taking community questions, of course. If you guys are listening live, whether that's on twitch.tv or YouTube or maybe on Facebook, that, go ahead and submit your questions to the community success team. But first, though, we're going to be talking about what we brought up yesterday was the widget. We really don't have a name for this yet. We're not sure what we're going to be in that process, but we have really a preview of what that is going to be on our website at join Embr. That's embr.com. But we saw a lot of people in the community really were wondering, what value will, I mean, obviously there's going to be a revenue stream that, it's important to running a business, but what this revenue stream means for, for the token itself and really for the community. Jason, you want to kind of build a picture on us and how that's going
yeah, I mean, we did address a little bit. We hinted at it in last week's show, but you know, launching a business, I mean, specifically in in the DeFi space, or even as a traditional business,
to. Mm-hmm.
ultimately the token is the sort of the asset in the background. I mean, it 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 serves way more purposes than your average stock, but um, like the token itself for Ember, it's such a big part of everything that we're aiming for, and now we need to sort of think about beyond just the asset itself and how are we going to bring utility. I mean, we have those questions, but what I mean by how is now that these phases of pre-sales and going into secondary market are behind us, which it's only been 2 weeks, but it literally feels like a whole month at least.
If not
Like
longer.
yeah, exactly. So um we now fall in a situation where we need to start delivering products and services. And the great news is, we have so many things lined up, for the next couple of months. And that first thing, which is the widget, I mean, we call it the widget, but ultimately it's not specifically a widget. I mean, there are different ways we're imagining this to take shape, but ultimately, I think what's important is not necessarily sort of the what and the how. I mean, we're going to get into that, but I think what's important about this first thing that we're releasing is why we're releasing it. And some of the elements of that why we've addressed last week, which is obviously ease of use and accessibility, and everybody understands that commercially it's a ridiculous idea. And you had a pretty good example, Rob, with just
Oh yeah, with the little anecdote about the idea of like if I went into a Macy's and right when I showed up at the Macy's, I was like, I'd like to purchase this jacket. And the first thing was like, well, before you do that, you have to go all the way down the street, make exchange for whatever your paper money is. You need to turn it into a different currency, and hopefully we're able to return back to us at some point to be able to purchase the actual fact or scanned or something along the way before you come back to us.
and by the way, when you get there, just know that there's no customer service. So
None at all. In fact,
if
there's a
wrong,
sign. There's actually literally a sign that says, no customer service, and if you mess up, then sorry, we can't help you. I mean, no other world would operate this way. It's insanity.
that's just complete madness. When you think
But
about it, and this is how the whole space operates, this is just like, are
it's
you kidding
insanity.
me?
It's amazing to me that they even structurally built it that way. Like, what I'm saying, when they were coming up with the ideas, whoever put together Pancake Swap, we're not sure. They're
we,
just like, yeah, let's
we
make this as
thought that this
difficult
was
as
a great
possible.
idea.
Yeah, we're gonna make us up to as many hurdles as possible to be able to do this. Absolutely. Let's bring it together.
Anyway, it basically left the door wide open for us to seize the day and seize the opportunity. So this is what we're doing. But yeah, the these reasoning of accessibility and ease of use are two things that we addressed last week. But I think what's more important is in a space where it's very easy to make mistakes. And sometimes these are even for the most veteran person, these are mistakes that are easy to make, like copy and pasting the address, and then how many times like the contract address, that's an example. So you have to go to one place, then you input the contract address into the interface to make sure that you're buying from the right place, and then you're connecting your wallet. So it's all those steps. Yes, there's the ease of use, but it's also like the potential for mistakes is quite high. And with this approach of this product, one of the main thing that, like, two other things that I want to add to what we could call it like features and benefits, but is just having it all hard coded and verified in the back end by us is such a worry to have. It's one less worry to have, and so that's one. And also, second, I think a byproduct of this is just just no more scams, like in the
Mm-hmm.
sense that
Mm-hmm.
like a fake contract or something like that, you just find it, but yeah, it's the right ticker, and but you're just selecting, just like us, there's a fake contract out there that's running
Mm-hmm.
wild, and most project will have pretty much at least one fake project out there
If
with
not, if not many, if not many, I mean,
yeah, it's just to make it confusing.
mm-hmm. And also on top of that, not even just a fake contract, to have people reaching out to you on a consistent basis, Telegram, just people that are saying, hey, send us this information, or this is the wallet address to be able to send this to, or and then there's really no level of authenticity, to verify that these are the people. There's really no standard for that, and I think that's what this is the beginning of.
Yeah. And so these two extra thing um are sort of the pillars of this initiative to make this this tool something that we feel will be undoubtedly uh, um, sort of something that will run a lot of our products in this ecosystem of this gateway that we're trying to create. And when some people are asking sort of how does it fit into everything that you're doing, well, it fits. Like, it's basically, if you would think of it as a whole thing, it's basically like the mouth. So you need to, have an entry point, where you have all these people that can come in and interact securely with ease of use, and trust, and so ultimately, and I think this is something that also transpired when PayPal initially began, and had their buy button. And so a lot of people were looking for that trust factor because they knew, or beyond the buy button, things like the padlock that we used to see back in the day when you used to input your credit card. I mean, you don't see
Mhm.
it that much anymore today because it's a given. All of these things are quite secure, or whatever, how much encryption, but it used to be the number one thing you would look for. Is this, safe? And this is the kind of thing that we want to bring, with that widget. And so also, regarding the widget itself, it's it's a product, but it's also a side product, because, again, everything that we want to do is not necessarily like, we don't want to start like 1,000 different projects. So
Mhm.
this is basically a feature of something bigger,
Mhm.
and this is how it fits in our ecosystem. Is, when you go on, um, Squarespace or Shopify or something like that, and the checkout part of, purchasing your goods and services over there, it's not a product in itself. It's just part of the experience.
Mhm. Mhm.
And there's obviously someone that developed the tech for it, but the goal wasn't to, especially for the Shopify or it,
The
it's
Squares.
just part of the whole. Yeah, it's just part of the whole vision and feeling of, the experience. So it's the same thing with us. Now it feels like it's a thing, and yes, it is a thing. But it's, once, we launched the ecosystem, and this gateway to the decentralized world, then it's just going to be a feature of that. And I think where it becomes super interesting is that people that have their own project will be able to use, this feature on their own website. So if you're a project leader or something like that, you'll be able to, copy and paste, a small sort of, line of code, and drop it on your website, and it'll create, an experience and a flow, that will make your token very easily accessible in terms of, you know buying it, rather
Mhm.
than just like you just said, Rob, which is, well, we'll be sending you over there, and
Well,
hopefully
also,
we'll see you by tomorrow.
I think also too as well is that, I mean, this will change obviously as this becomes more common, because our ambition is to have this be a premier, you know one of our premier products that becomes so common in the space, because we're gonna be having an outreach program. Like I said, we're gonna have a sales team. We want this to be on and being utilized by the top 300 people, that 300 projects on the BSC. But when that happens, it'll be more commonplace. But in the meantime, when this is first budding out, if you're a starting project and this feature's not that common yet, and you are able to, one of our enterprise or professional editions of this product, where it's white labeled, where they can implement it in any way possible, where it'll bring a level of credibility to your project as well. I mean, the people can go on there and be like, wow, they have this, they put this together also, and that'll add into the own credibility of the project and the ease of use for them to be able to do so. So I mean, once we're on all 300 top BSC projects, it'll obviously won't be so impressive anymore. That's something everyone will have, we hope, in the future. But in the meantime, though, it is we're thinking about those types of features that will you know um, um, help out any of these projects go from ideation to launch. in the smoothest way possible.
Yeah. And if you want an idea of where this is going, you can head to like Stripe checkout. You'll see sort of what we're envisioning, but for the DeFi space, and this is really inspiring. And everybody knows that Stripe is absolutely massive. So we have, you know, just as high ambitions as, if not bigger, than Stripe. But that's just one of the features that we're building for our ecosystem that can be licensed and be used on, you know, whichever project they're at. And I think that, you know, some segue questions into this is how does it actually benefit the project, or how does it benefit the token?
Yeah, because also a lot of people question have about revenue, which I always thought was just a weird question. Why a lot of people ask this is that where's the what's up with this revenue? Like as if a business shouldn't generate revenue in some way, or that that we shouldn't have to pay people, and
And
it
like,
was
who gets the money from that revenue? Like,
yeah.
well,
Well, the business does,
it's not
but
Rob, but it all goes to Rob.
it all goes to me exactly. That's why that's this on the podcast. That's how I'm getting secretly paid is through the podcast. Is through this widget. My
I
face
think we'll
appears on
call it
there.
the Ember Rob. We'll
Yeah,
call it
Embr
the
Rob. Yeah. Actually, and when you buy something, it literally says you've been robbed. Like,
we'll
um,
edit that out.
yeah. No, but the with the revenue model though, I think that like everything that we do here at Embr, and you, I want to have that you break this down a bit, Jason, is that it's not just a standard revenue model that it's going to pay bills. That there's going to be some things that we're going to do. If you want to break that down, stuff with like charity and how it affects liquidity, and do you want to kind of give us a little breakdown of that a little bit? I know some of these things are still not totally finalized. Some of the details are a bit squishy at the moment, but
Yeah.
I think it's pretty exciting for all of our investors.
Yeah, well, we've been having a lot of back and forth with, um, with our lead Solidity engineer and also our economists in regards to, because currently we're in the final stages of the staking, and so we're sort of heavily involved in smart contract once again, plenty of them, but so I think the easiest way of seeing it is now how it's going to execute. It's not decided yet, but our goal is to, out of what we generate as a business in terms of revenue, we're implementing in that smart contract, because it would all be driven. Internally, we call it sort of a middleman smart contract. So it's something that's interacting, on the sideline of the pancake swap and our interface, our Web3 interface, so that we can create a seamless experience, but also use the all the sort of liquidity pools of all these different tokens on pancake swap. But so our goal is to have some form of automation in there, have the least amount of manual interaction, have the most amount of all of these on chain as well, if possible, so it's all transparent. But ultimately, out of the revenues that we're generating, we're thinking, and we're finalizing those ratios and stuff. But we're currently sort of looking at, I would say, a little bit more. I mean, yeah. So without going into the details exactly of the percentage, because it's just going to be confusing, like you're saying, Rob. So we're thinking of a certain percentage that will be all automated in regards to doing a buyback, and that will have a direct impact on our liquidity pool and increase the market cap. So that, we feel, is something that was non-negotiable. We felt that every single transaction that goes through that buy button, which could be a website, or it could be on our in our ecosystem, for sure, will have that baked in. So not only there's going to be, and you've mentioned this, many times, Rob. This is probably the best marketing tool we can think of. The actual sort of the brand that will be everywhere. If we can find a name for it that is that can be used everywhere, just like Apple Pay, and you're thinking of PayPal, or all those sorts of names that are well established, and if we could put it out there in a format where it's going to be on everybody's lips, like when you go through the flow, it'll say powered by, and then the button and all those sorts of things. So this is incredible amounts of marketing to huge audience. But that aside, so there's the buyback. A certain percentage will be automated to do buybacks. Also, now this bit in regards to the other percentage that we want to be sort of a give back. Now the give back, so there's a buyback and a give back. And the give back is yet to be determined, like the how it's going to be operated, managed, and etc. But I think we're heavily leaning on the side of potentially, again, being very much linked to the token, the Embr token, having it be sort of DAO driven, in the sense that this new organization that we'll be creating will be exclusively funded by this give back. And basically the funds, how they're distributed and how they're given, would be essentially decided by the holders. So I think this is truly powerful, not only on the idea and the concept that it's important to give back, but also give our community a voice. And I think there's nothing more exciting than having a voice in regards to giving back. And yeah, I think this is exciting. You're in mute, Rob. Let me. Yep.
About that. I do believe that with the combination of these things, that not only we have the level of basically every project that's spending money on marketing at the end will funnel to us as being a second result of the marketing, and then which will just drive traffic to our project and our services. But also if people are going to be spending some B&B on a project, they see it's powered by Embr in a couple ways. There's a very high chance they'll get some traction and be able to purchase Embr, raising the market cap. But in addition to that, with all of these transactions, what could be millions of dollars, in volume that's moving around, that we'll have a percentage of. If a small, whatever the portion we decide at the end there is going for a buyback to add to the market cap, therefore raising the price. Anytime any of these people that are using the powered by Embr, they'll just see the charts always going up, and these things kind of feed into one another, where it could make this project extremely successful, especially where we've come up with these level of tokenomics, that it doesn't take too huge of a market cap to really get some big gains there. And then in addition to that, by having that, not only is it good for karma, not only a lot of every organization does some form of something that's philanthropic. It usually there's for tax breaks, or usually when it's a company like Amazon or or Tesla or something, it's usually because they've had a lot of bad press in the news lately. So they come up with some sort of philanthropic idea about them giving back to workers or whatever. It's really just an idea for for their branding. But when we're doing it though, it's really for, number one, we believe that's something that every project should be involved with. Some of it's philanthropic, being able to give back. It's just good karma across the board. It gives us a good. It's really good for our image, but to have leveled, the layer on top of there that it's community driven, of how this will be spent and be used is really about us, being community first. And that's really what Ember's about. And I think having all of those together really makes a great, for someone on the sales side of stuff here, a great value proposition, where not only does it, not only does this benefit your project, but look what it does for us. Look what we're doing for the community. Look what we stand for when it comes to our branding. I mean, and this is
Yeah.
really just, the first entry to the market for one of our products. And I think it's a great starting point.
Yeah. And, as soon as we started thinking about doing this, I started doing some research into some organization that could be actually super relevant to what we're doing. And I'm thinking, uh, and I was at an event yesterday, and I had a grown person, someone my age, asking me, "Oh, so you're in crypto?" And that's such a uh, world that is difficult to comprehend, and
Mm-hmm.
coming from totally the outside. And I was thinking, so the next generation, because I have a daughter, she's 8 years old, and I'm thinking for her, probably fiat at some point will be like part of the past,
Mm-hmm.
and she'll be
Mm-hmm.
fully into crypto for whatever reason, that's just probably how she'll operate. But where I'm trying to get to is that I think there needs to be a lot of focus on financial literacy in the blockchain space for up and coming generations. And there's a few organizations out there that are focused around this. And see, this is the kind of thing where, yeah, it doesn't need to be sick kids. It can also be very much aligned with our mission, which is empowering the next generation of of the people that will be creating those blockchain powered startups that will change the world. And what better ways to fund crypto literacy, financial literacy, not just like the tech literacy, but just like how does it all work, and what's the actual meaning of it in terms of how is it going to change and impact the world, and all those sorts of things. And even me just communicating it to my daughter's complex thing. I mean, I'm sure it's the same thing for anyone out there trying to explain it to their other half or siblings or things like that. But yeah, this is the kind of thing that we can do. That's how powerful this little sort of thing can have in terms of impact.
And I really do also. It's funny you brought that up too about financial literacy, and that also not just not just for crypto, but there's a lot of this because there's a lot of young people that are involved in cryptocurrency. Like I said, I was just at Decentral in Miami last week. No offense to anyone working for that event, but it was a little bit of a excuse my language, a little bit of a shit show. I mean, there's a lot of this moon boy attitude. I mean, influencers congratulating themselves on some of these meme tokens, and there's people with Lamborghinis that didn't know how to drive them, flooring it up. And, this culture, that kind of culture is unsustainable, number one. Number two, this idea, this hyper level of consumerism that especially these younger generations, I mean, when it comes to TikTok, influencers, stuff that you see on, these people on Instagram with yachts and boats and you literally have, one person, it was like Kylie Jenner who's like, oh yes, we have to save the planet, but then next six pictures of her getting on a private jet and a yacht. She probably consumes more energy and burns more fossil fuels than
Yeah, I'd
some
be I'd
states do.
I'd be surprised that she has a very elaborate carbon credit sort of compensation plan.
So I mean, but the idea that not only for them to understand crypto, but the idea of how investing works, how you should start saving early, these kind of things, if we're able to be philanthropic by investing in education to kind of what our broader vision is. That's why if you notice that everything that we do with our branding and how we communicate to the public is with we say that we get made fun of because we use the word world class a lot, but it's the higher levels of professionalism, and to be able to have a philanthropic endeavor that promotes that for future generations, because this ultra level of consumerism, moonboyness, a consumption, this idea that let's blow money while we have it, it's unsustainable for the future. And I think that by putting money towards that, along with sick kids and that kind of thing, it really aligns with our vision as what we do here at Ember.
Yeah. So Yeah, so that's a little bit of insight without giving you exact metrics, but I think the point here is to tell you that the technical part of this initiative is working. We have a proof of concept on the website. There's a little glitch in the last couple of days, but we're still in a beta. Where we're still finalizing some stuff. But smart contract wise, it's done. It's ready to go, ready to be rolled out. We're going to get it audited by our friends, obviously at Hackin. But beyond that, we're looking at a true partnership with them for this button. So more details on this coming. But that's really exciting. I think it's a combined partnership where the goal is to bring more trust in the space. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Eli was saying yesterday that sort of the results of the actual sort of frauds in the space and scams and all those sorts of things. In regards to the top auditors, Hacken came out second, just next to, I think it's QuantStamp. So it really shows that even though things happen for a reason, I mean, the previous partner that we were meant to go with in terms of auditing, they're way behind. And I think our initial judgment was correct, and it yeah, things happen for a reason, and I feel that this partnership is a really good one and will serve us well for a long time with
Yeah, I mean,
Hacken. Yeah.
not only with the level of that they also have brand recognition themselves, and by having them as a partner, just like we do with someone like Wire, who also has really great reputation in the space. That when we're going to bring out some details, but to be able to have this level of brand recognition, like you said, with the trusted by, this is a trusted site, to be able to divert scams. I mean, I think the amount of, I saw something else too, the amount of revenue generated from people lost money in these scams. It's happening. It's an unprecedented number. I mean, the credit card business. I mean, they get, in credit card, there's a whole idea with, theft protection and, with chargebacks. And I think that, credit cards are a big thing that happens, but I think that the scams in crypto, wallets being emptied
Mm.
or just sending it to the wrong address or whatever, I think it's like 10 times what it is in the regular, consumer market when it comes to something like a credit card or checking accounts, etc. So, this is something that I think that, with just by having this button there and something that's normal in any other space will really change the space. I mean, we really make a name for ourselves too as well. I mean, there'll be a time, a year or two down the maybe 3 years from now when people will look back and really say, hey, Embr is the one that really changed the game. It's just like how you would when the whole web 2.0 idea that we saw that transition from the 90s and the 2000s. I think that us, spearheading that kind of transition in crypto, even though it's just our first product, I think will still, make us, somewhat legendary in the space. I think that's, it's going to be
Hopefully.
newsworthy. Yeah, newsworthy.
Nothing less than legendary.
That's my standard here. That's my standard. I'm looking for
uh,
Pirates of Silicon Valley type of autobiography in the future.
yeah.
Speaking, that's a good transition to, what our next topic I think should be is that, a little bit about the ecosystem. This is the first entry point into that. A lot of this revenue stream, prior to what we just mentioned, will be used to hire developers, to scale up to really what is Embr, which is this ecosystem, and to kind of expand on that. Join Embr.com. We spoke, a little bit, I guess this was in our team meeting, is, with Wire, they have sort of a same sort of issue, and we were taking some time to be able to get a name together. Wire's website is actually sendwire.com. It's not ideal. It's actually funny. If you were to take wire.com and type that in, there's just a landing page that says, let the bidding begin. Like, that's like, you go to wire.com, is literally, it's just a line of text says, let the bidding begin. I want, a couple $100,000. Here's my email. That's
Yeah,
certainly
because basically those so those domain names, specifically the four-letter ones, and we're in the four-letter sort of
category.
game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, they're pretty expensive, and obviously we wanted to move fast, and we went for something um, that was actionable in the sense that it would tell you to do something, it would drive action. And Join Ember was perfect for the time that we used it, because ultimately we had to move. We had to do something. We needed to have something. We needed beyond anything for us. And I'm a hardcore believer that if you're going to do something, you need to do it right. And I'm not a fan of those country specific extensions, and all these weird, like, cheap domain extension
Mhm.
.xyz
Mhm.
.io all those sorts of things, which just doesn't breathe that much seriousness. And it's not because they don't want to be serious. I mean, they do want to be serious, but unfortunately it's hard to be um in the top level domain names with the actual name of your business, because they're just
Mhm.
so expensive. For the last 10 years, at least, since the bubble, these .com, .net, .org, these are the three main ones. And these are the ones that will give you the best SEO, the best recognition, in terms of domain names. But unfortunately, none of them are available. Just absolutely, absolutely none of them are available. And, like you're saying, Rob, a lot of people were opportunistic. They just grabbed them. They're not intending to do anything with it other than flip, and flip them for the most amount of money. And, for us, since the beginning, our goal was to get a four-letter top level domain name.
Mhm.
We unfortunately couldn't move, initially, because we just didn't have the funds to do so, because they're extremely expensive, and may not be for sale. So our first, same with Wire. If you go on Embr.com, it's a drop shipping company. So it's a shit
Mhm.
company, probably making a few $1,000s a year, not a year, but like a month, and being a middleman. And they're not interested in selling for whatever reason. They're just throwing money at them. They're not
We
interested in
tried.
selling. Yeah.
That,
So we've
that,
been in discussion with them and others, that, for quite some time. And yeah, so basically, I think where Rob wants to lead me into uh, to tell you that we're packing our bags, because we have a new home. We bought a new home today. We paid it,
Mhm. Mhm.
and it's being cleaned out. It's being prepared, and we'll be moving there in the next couple of days, probably a couple of weeks. But we made the big acquisition of a four-letter domain name, which is Embr.org, and this is going to be absolutely massive for us for many, many reasons. One is um, memorable, very, very easy. There's no, like, trick words before. There's no trick word, like extension at the end.
It's just
And
embr.org. I mean, that's
bam, that's it.
easy enough. Easy to have it. And then the original website, Join Ember, was really just kind of a launch page to be able to, draw interest in the project and to be able to, draw interest in the coin and really, bring an audience to the podcast as well. Really just to show, but it really wasn't our home. That's
Join
really
us.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really just join us. Get ready, be here for launch. That I am assuming will mirror now if you go there to just we'll drop you to
Yeah.
ember.org.
Most probably. I don't think we're going to recycle it for something specific, as an endpoint. I think that the goal is really stored to funnel everyone into that main domain name. And yeah, this is where we see, this is where we feel the door will be positioned to enter this gateway to the decentralized world. And it's going to be recognizable. If we're going to build something on a brand, and even with Join Ember, we were starting to see it. It's not building the Ember brand; it's building Join Ember. It's not. It's just like Wire. Unfortunately, as much as you're trying to build Wire, you're essentially building SendWire. So as when sort of you're changing eventually, um, like was your business called SendWire, or like
No,
it's
yeah,
the
I mean,
same thing?
even the conversation that I had with their when I was meeting with them in Miami, we sat down with a face to face, was exactly them trying to overcome that. And it's difficult for them, especially too when the person who owns wire.com is unfortunately has no really interest except for extorting Wire. That's really, it's not like they're trying to run a business or anything on there, so the price keeps going up. And it's difficult to be able to build brand recognition, and that's why they look for partners like us. But now, luckily, we're fortunate, and I'm hoping one day we're able to get a hold of wire.com as well. They all just send to one spot. Maybe buy out their little drop shipping company entirely at one point. But at least now we're able to focus on what our original vision is making Ember a household name, especially to when you see what the actual gateway is. That's it's very difficult because this is an abstract idea about what this ecosystem actually is. What does that look like? What does that feel like when that's tangible? How does that relate to and this was the meeting we had the other day also as well when we're talking about building the sales force, is when something's when you want to make present this to someone, when it comes to our roadmap, that all of these projects have this same similar roadmap. I mean, they're probably copying and pasting each other. We're not sure what, even with the legacy token, really gives them an identity. They all want to do an NFT marketplace. They're all saying they're doing an ecosystem. They're all saying that they're, going to have this or that, or and these are just all these abstract ideas. Really, maybe a wallet at one day. There's a one of our I guess friends in the space. I like to say that lightly. Where they say, we're building an exchange or some of these grandiose ideas that require a lot of development and money. They don't really come to fruition a lot of times. So it's hard when we're talking about this ecosystem, how to take these abstract ideas and really paint a picture for what we're envisioning. And I will attempt to kind of do that a little bit now. And I don't know how if this is a exercise in futility, but to be able to have this landing page of really what is simple, clean, you know, kind of representing, and I don't want to give too much away until we're able to launch it, is something you're already used to using on a day-to-day basis when it comes to a level of efficiency and being so streamlined and ease of use, and really have that be your gateway to everything that's on, that's in this space, and be able to direct you there seamlessly. What do you say, Jason? Is that kind of building that picture a little bit?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the what most of our audience and most of the community will want to hear is, if everything goes well, we should have some form of um, um, like explainer page about this, if everything goes well again, before Christmas. We
Mm-hmm.
don't intend to market it until after Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
which obviously everyone knows. It's, the whole thing will die down, over Christmas. It's going to be very quiet. We're not in the business of selling TVs, so we're going to stay quiet. Christmas is going to be good for retail, but we're not in retail, so we're going to
Mm-hmm.
give them the mic, and we're obviously going to stay low a little bit, but come back, in January with a bang. But expect, to have some form of idea of what it's going to be before the holidays. But yeah, it's. I think the point that you're trying to put across, Rob, and it's one that obviously we all agree on is, Ember is not the type of project that wants to just tick the boxes, that wants
Mm-hmm.
to be just like any other project. And yeah, we want to do this. Yeah, we want to do that because that's what people want. That's not where we stand. And when we talk about, or at least when we mention those things, NFT marketplace, and we mention Launchpad, we mention all those sorts of, products. Unless you're in our minds and unless you're within the walls of our business, you might think that these are all individual products. You might
Mm-hmm.
think that they're all destinations in themselves. You'll go
Mm-hmm.
there and it's gonna be like OpenSea, but for DeFi. Like, no,
Yeah, yeah,
we're
yeah.
we're not thinking about that. And I think maybe it's we're it's in how you communicate it, but I think ultimately what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks is you're going to start seeing this communication that goes towards products and services way more than before. But our original intention was, when we were talking about these things, is that they were sort of features of something bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So when we say that there's a launch pad, it's not that there's a specific launch pad where you go and it's a launch pad. It's not what we're trying to do. Is that the ecosystem that we're building has features of a launch pad in it, seamlessly integrated. And when we talk about NFT marketplace, or I prefer to say just assets marketplace or digital assets marketplace, because it doesn't need to be non-fungible tokens,
Mm-hmm.
is like it's a feature of this thing that we're building. It's essentially when you're there, you can trade assets. You can sell them on the open market, but it's not the main feature um of of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about a wallet, yeah, you know, our main goal is not to launch a wallet. Like in the whole experience of what we're doing, just like this buy button, right now it only lets you buy from crypto, but in the next couple of weeks we'll be starting to work with Wire to do the on ramp to purchase those cryptos, those BEP20 tokens and other ones, from fiat. But the question is, once you buy that token, where does it stay?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it'll stay in your wallet. So do we have a wallet? Well, yes, indirectly, because it's part of the experience. But are we going to specifically market that Ember is a wallet? No. It's a feature in what we do. So this is the vision of ember.org, is rather than having, and maybe that's how it's been perceived, and that's sort of what we're trying to fight off, because that's what most crypto projects are doing, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But us, it's, and hopefully this is what you've been seeing, and we're gonna try as hard as possible for you to see it. But that's what we're trying to create. It's this one experience that is all seamlessly integrated, sort of elegantly delivered, and that is approachable by anyone. And that this is always where we start. When we write the journey or the requirements for something, we think of it. Yeah, there's the veteran that knows how to operate things, but what about my dad? If he's going to go on there, how is he going to figure it out?
Mm-hmm.
How can we make this simple? And
Well,
yeah.
I think also on top of that too is that when speaking about the veteran, that someone who's so used to this space, who knows how to navigate it properly, who knows all the terminology, who's able to use Pancake Swap and Uniswap with ease, and be able to make these things function. And these are some of the guys that are some of the biggest investors with a lot of capital to be able to invest. There are the ones who are able to look and when this is launched, and they're the ones that will be the most impressed. they're the ones that'll be able to spread the buzz. They're like, wow, man, I mean, are you kidding me? Like, as they know what it requires to do now, to have that level of ease of use, for someone like your dad, your uncle, your brother-in-law who just want to kind of get their, then like, oh, okay, this is easy to use. I've heard it was difficult, but this is much easier. What it was compared to. It's sort of like when I show my niece, who's 18 years old, when I show her MS-DOS on like an old computer. I mean, she doesn't realize because she's only grown up with an iPad. She's only grown up with this, super easy to use and this very thin device. To her, far we've actually come. I mean, there's, to her, it's just like, wow, this is archaic. So, but the people that were, like myself, who've been in tech and just been, I using a computer with MS-DOS since I was like 10, that's why I'm blown away by all these evolutions and products that come out, especially with stuff that's Apple's doing and with Alphabet or Google, whatever you want to call them. That these really hardcore crypto people will be able to see what we're doing and be like, wow, this just works. Like, this is what you've taken off of there. And that's how you start building a lot of buzz, a lot of people, people generating articles, people that are talking about it. And we really think this could, really be a tidal wave in change, because then this will become a standard where, if someone were to, to deliver a product, let's say Apple, the one that they had 15 years ago, and it was like, this is our first launching product, everything else will feel antiquated at that point. And we'll be able to make a shift in the marketplace, which really goes back to brand identity.
Yep. Yeah. So, that's basically what we wanted to share with you guys this week.
I think before we go ahead. No. I did want to, before we sign out of here, because we do have a couple more minutes, is some questions from the community.
Awesome.
For you guys also out there, if you're on our Discord or, whether it's on Twitter, I know some of our community success team really hasn't been pushing it as much just because, we've been, this last couple of weeks. I mean, even when we first launched today at Embr, we wanted this to be discussionary, have guests, and, these kind of take in lieu of project updates because, we said that before about how these project updates for any project never really go well. They don't read the expectations, and that we kind of like to drizzle information. But fortunately, for the last couple of months, it's really only been updates in the project, and really just about what we're delivering and all these great things that we're about to launch. So it's been pretty exciting. So we've kind of put on the back burner, community questions and interactions with you guys. So we want to put that back at the forefront. Our community success team will be pushing that a little bit more. We know it's kind of been in the background because of just all these great announcements we've been having. So make sure you guys write in to whether it's on Discord or Twitter or in our Telegram to be able to have some questions there from someone in the community here. I have just a few because we are running short on time. We're about to hit an hour here shortly. We got other stuff we have to do for the day, getting all this stuff launched. One of the questions here was, and I can actually answer this, but if you want to jump on there, is what projects? Let's see, where's this gentleman here? What coins or what projects do you have that you see people already interested into this widget, being able to kind of that have kind of reached out to us? And I think really when it comes to answering this question, because technically with some more announcements about some shifts we're going to be having in the company, a little bit of some restructuring that's going to occur as we ramp up and kind of bring people on there. Some of our roles and titles will change. But I guess I'm technically also director of sales at this point. And how that sales strategy is going to work, we're really on ramping the team. We're building out buzz for people, to get some buzz about the project. But, when it comes to who's interested in this project, I'd say if you just go on CoinMarketCap, and pretty much any of the top 100 on there are interested in this widget, whether they have direct knowledge of it yet or not. Because as speaking to our partners at Wire, they know that's why they've actually moved from, not to kind of, give too much inside baseball. I don't want to, discuss some of their internal things that they were doing, but why they've decided to accelerate their integration into BSC as opposed to some other projects that were previously on their roadmap, because they see that level of demand being there. They have other partners they're working with directly now, but no one is doing a SaaS or software as a service that this widget is. So the demand is so great that even when wire people that are speaking to wire, they even ask them like, "Do you have some kind of thing we can just implement on our own? Like just drop it in there?" Like we have to actually. I mean, I think that one of our friends in the space is using them, but not to their most optimal ways of being able to use them. And so a lot of these projects are like, this is just difficult how to do this, and by having that partnership with them, pretty much every project on the BSC, directly or indirectly, has interest in this widget and this buy button. And that's why part of the sales force is really just being able to connect them properly and making sure they have that, because they're asking wire already, if they can have that. And by having a partner, they can direct people to us, and really the interest and demand is there. So not to give any specifics, but this isn't me speaking in hyperbolically either. It's actually true. You can look at the top 100 of these projects in the CMC, and they will they're interested partners. Like I said, directly or indirectly. Do you want to add anything to that, Jason? I think that's kind of sums it up, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's nothing really to market so much right now. I mean, it's a proof of concept on our website, and we're sort of packaging it up right now. And once it'll have a dedicated home where it explains well what the product is, and it can show what's its true potential. This is when we're gonna sort of start building the hype. Um, and I think our approach for this product is going to be very much um, sort of request early access type of building interest before it's publicly released. So stages are going to be most probably like a product landing page, submit sort of a few details about your token, like daily or monthly sort of volume, and contract address has it been audited, those sorts of ticking sort of the boxes of
Standard boxes,
is
yeah.
this a legitimate project, and how they're interested in being part of, we could call like a private beta, because it won't be publicly available for some time, because if we're going to be transacting a lot of volume with some of those beta testers, we just want to make sure that it's stable, safe, and ready for for the Super Bowl, pretty much, before releasing it. Because once you throw it out there, you don't want it to break, so you want to challenge it as much as possible in every single direction. And that's what we're going to be doing, in the next couple of weeks, potentially a couple of months. Hopefully, we can get to the main event as fast as possible. But we, like everything we do, we won't release anything that we feel is not ready. Right now, it's almost ready for sort of a beta testing,
Mm-hmm.
but we're not near that. Not we're not there yet. Um, yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
can add.
we want to have all that together too as well. So so let you know that the potential there is, and even Jason, during our weekly meeting that him and I have, he's, which actually usually I'm always like go 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 go, and we were both in agreement. Like we're looking at hopefully by the Super Bowl, before we want to make sure this thing is really rock solid for our first entry in. And you guys saw that too. People that were fortunate enough to be part of the private pre-sale and saw how smoothly that went. That was because we did extensive testing on the back end, to make sure that that's really ready for prime time. I have another one from here. A couple people actually asked. I have a gentleman named Jetstar. He was on Discord server, and he wants a great question for you, Jason. Is when the light paper that we put out, which I think is, even that is just really just being a light paper. I think is way ahead and beyond what any other project's doing. But he's asking is when can we expect, because anticipation is high. When can we expect the full release of the actual white paper?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the answer to this is And the reason why it's been taking a little bit more time is because we want to release a white paper that is aligned with um, sort of where we're going. And in the past couple of weeks, we've been working on the white paper, but it's evolving so fast on our end that the white paper is not keeping up. So this is what we've been challenged with, and I feel we're pretty much there now in the sense that we've come to a position right now which is pretty crystallized, and it feels, we're exactly where we wanted to be. And we have a lot more time as well to dedicate to this, because the whole technical part is not some. I mean, the light paper is a bit generic, but the white paper is something that basically the technical writer needs to get in our heads and communicate with everyone that is involved in the project, on the technical side of things. And that's just not been something we had time for. Unfortunately, James, wasn't so much available. Our Solidity developers and the token economists and all those sorts of things, we're just flat out busy at delivering products. So now we're sort of seeing a window where we feel we can sort of close it, hopefully very shortly. It's going to be anyway a live white paper, so it's not going to be a static one. Most probably, we're going to be using Coda to put it online. Same,
just like we are now.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll evolve, but we don't want to create more work for something that needs to be iterated every week. So we want to drop something that can sustain not the test of time, because time in crypto is so fast, but that doesn't look irrelevant or antiquated in 3 weeks. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. Especially too is that, now that because for those that have never worked in development before, is that as you're building these things, it's sort of
The
there's the
tech
science.
changes, and
Yes, there's a science part of it where, but that tech is also changing, and then as you're building iterations, you come to certain conclusions that you didn't realize would that you'd get there when you first came up. We're at the ideation phase, and until these things are fully crystallized and being developed, we don't want to have someone where and this technical copywriter is they're not cheap. I mean, just the
yeah, you
hours of
can't
just
send them back to the writing table to rewrite it every week.
rewrite it
It's
every week and have that in there. So, and I think also too is that like crystallizing that, and then also too is how and they're really just going by what our thoughts are to pick into our head, and just like anything as you're learning, sometimes until you're able to what is the word? So you're able to really put it into words, properly to able to communicate that to them properly to get the best results. These things just take time and a lot of a lot of think tank.
yeah. So that's the answer.
Yeah, so so
I don't
it
know if
should
that's an answer, but
I don't know if that's an answer or not, but it should
that's
not be.
context.
Yeah, it gives yeah. But it's coming. They're working on it. What you see right now with with Coda is kind of just really what you can expect, what the format will look like and how much of an in-depth discussion and analysis to how we present that and communicate that to the public. That's what you can expect there as well. I have one more question, which is also a great segue to next week's episode. And I think this is a great way to kind of end on here. I have from a Mr. Jason Foster, who's listening to us on YouTube. Now, just so you guys, if you guys don't know, you guys can catch us on twitch.tv. You can catch us on youtube.com. Right now, as I was looking, our Facebook is, I think we finally cracked the live Facebook code finally, as we see it's live there now. And of course, you can always catch us at any of the places you get your podcast, Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcast. Those are all available there too as well. But if you like listening to us live, you know where to catch us if you want to see our pretty mugs. But Jason Foster on YouTube is asking us here information on staking. and APY. And if you would have able to say, and I can just say that you'll be very happy with next week's episode. That we'll be having a special guest, Eli, who he'll be coming down. Like I said, I'm going to be probably won't see or hear my voice for at least until January from the holidays coming up. But he's going to be here with Jason and give a full breakdown of that stuff. But I think it's going to be pretty exciting. Jason, do you want to kind of give any sneak peeks to what's going to be happening next week? Any tidbits you can give our audience before for them to get excited about for next week?
Well, the two things I can say is APY is going to be high, and we're aiming for for a beautiful Christmas present. So that's the two things I can say for now.
Yeah. I think that's we're trying to here at Embr. We're really believe in being generous. So we we think that next week's episode, especially one that you should be very interested in, but that will bring some really great news for people to drive some incentivize. We really want to incentivize people as this is a long-term project, it's a long-term investment. That's why things like
Yeah.
vesting and
Oh,
stuff like that. So
I also think because and so maybe I'll add this is basically there's the approach of our project was around vesting and things like that. So we're just looking at giving when each and everyone's token will unlock and be accessible. We just want to give you some options with it, and I feel that, and we feel that staking is a beautiful option. Beyond just holding. If you're going to hold, might as well get something out of it.
get paid out of it. Yeah.
Which is much better than reflections. Not to say that reflections are bad. I'm just saying that staking is much more interesting than reflections when you're holding. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it gives you options and how to interact with your token. And this
and it has
interface.
purpose. It has
Mm-hmm.
purpose as well. Yes, it's a win-win in the sense that you get something out of it, but the project gets something out of it as well. Which is stability, and which is something that's the whole purpose of staking. It's to bring stability in the early days of a low market cap, project. So until it becomes a bigger, more established project, we need the project needs a good amount of stability in terms of assets and the tokens being there, LP
Yeah.
tokens and things like that. So more on it next week, but yeah, it's all really doing great, and we're on target, and yeah, exciting stuff.
I mean, the value proposition that we're gonna have, by running into 2022, because this is my last statement for the year, guys. Because like I said, I'm not gonna. This is my last episode. We're taking off for the holidays, but I just wanted to add is that the value proposition of Embr rolling into 2022 for a project that we've really just launched, 2 weeks ago, which this is kind of it sounds as the words are coming out of my mouth, it sounds incredible. Of what we'll have for to make that value proposition of having an app in your hand, being able to have, Embr.org. And when you see the stuff that that how that's going to be interactive, to be able to have, from a vault contract to a crowd sale smart contracts, and to be audited, to have this Embr buy button that's going to be utilized across all of the BSC, that makes it ease of use, that are also our app and our landing page. All these things will take advantage of these of these products to make it so easy to use. And then we'll also have staking to be a part of that. So I mean, and that's 6 smart contracts in itself. And to have all of these things, I mean, we're hoping, that they, if everything goes according to plan, to be able to launch into 2022 with all of these things in our arsenal, I think is a pretty powerful achievement, not just on the BSC space, but I think as a tech company as a whole.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I mean, that's the goal, to really smash it out of the gate in terms of 2022. That's going to be a very exciting year. So
Mhm.
we're hyped. Yeah, we're wrapping up this year with incredible achievements, but that's just barely nothing
Just
for next year.
yeah, yeah. It's just barely the beginning. So, but listen, guys. Like I said, I'm going to be taking some time off, but next week we're going to have a special guest, Eli. It's going to be a staking special. He's going to get into also revenue models. He's pretty much the guy to talk about all that, and he really able to get in depth and is passionate about it. So be able to tune in next week. You guys can catch us. Normally, our normal schedule, it's going to be we're here every Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You guys can catch us on YouTube, twitch.tv, Facebook Live if you want to be able to see the video, or you can always get the edited and produced version on any of your favorite podcast formats. That'll be there as well if you're able to, if you missed us during our live podcast. So make sure you guys catch us next week. It's going to be a special one. I'm Robb Vallozzi, head of communications and apparently sales director now here at the Embr Project. And I am joined by my co-host, Jason Dominique, head of strategy. Jason, you want to give a sign off?
Peace.
Adios, guys. It's been a real pleasure. See you next year.
See ya.